Or
Hello and welcome to the All About You show with OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things that you think about and some things you don't. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
Daydream.
we will have another host coming through in a moment, but as always, family, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we ask that you please join in on the conversation, where your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions help drive the conversation. Our number here at the studio is 713-789-0096, should you decide to call in and render your opinion that way. Otherwise, I guess you can respond on Facebook, in which Daydream will be right there to get it.
Right.
Today our topic is black, the new commodity. Let me just refresh your memory as to what a commodity is. Commodity is an article of trade or commerce. It is something of use, advantage, and of value. Now, there's an estimated 75,000 missing black women and girls, and the lack of interest in their abductions continue to be frustrating and devastating for their families. It forces the question, does anybody care? There seems to be an alarming lack of interest in the case of missing black females. Supposedly, law enforcement have responded by using social media to bring the light to the host of African Americans and others of color who've gone missing. Abductions, as you know, are a very real threat. And no matter where you are in the world or whatever city you may live in, it still poses as a threat. It's not just a problem in third world or political unstable countries anymore. Each year, tens of thousands of adults go missing due to their being abducted, and oftentimes in plain sight. These abductions may not necessarily be for sex trafficking or for money. Blacks, especially black women, and yes, black men too, as well, are a commodity. While it is more difficult to abduct men, women are usually the prime target. So if it's not for money or sex trafficking, you ask, then what could it be about? Possibly melanin and organ harvesting. Now, melanin sells on the market for $428 a gram, which is probably $310 more than what gold goes for right now. Melanin comes in three different forms. It comes in gas, it comes in liquid, and it comes in solid. Solid is the most expensive, being $428 a gram. Now, real talk, in the last few months, I personally have had this attempt on two of my close girlfriends' lives. They have been approached and almost abducted. And let's discuss this dilemma and the fact that we are a commodity. Stock exchange, we're a commodity.
History repeats itself.
You know, it's just sad to think there's 75,000 missing black women out there. I remember a couple of months back, or maybe a year or so back, they had about 40 or 50 women missing from in the D.C. area.
Wow.
Nobody did anything. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody covered it. No milk carton, no newspaper, no nothing.
Right.
So that's why I said these families are frustrated and devastated because their family members have been abducted and nobody knows and nobody seems to care. And the longer you wait, the likelihood of them still being alive is slim to none.
Right. And I know here in Texas, you know, with the Amber Alert, I know that was an issue because people were saying how they felt the kids who made it to the Amber Alert for the news media, for social media, when there was an Amber Alert put out for them, it tended to be kids or children of fairer skin.
Okay. Oh,
and,
wow. Really?
Yes. And so,
that too?
you know, they're saying, you know, minority children are not
Valuable? Not.
well, not so much valuable. It's just their face isn't put out there. You know, they're immediately seen as, oh, it was a runaway. It was this. It was that.
That it is true.
So they're like, the only difference in, you know, what was the difference in criteria? The only difference that they could see was just skin color.
Well, that's always, colorism has always been big, but I didn't think that it would play a part by way of who's missing and who takes preference and who takes priority over a missing child, whether they're lighter than the
Well, it does
the
when
other
it comes
child
to the
that's
black
gone.
market.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right.
You know, so you don't want that attention. You don't want to throw up a flag. Hey, all these missing minority children in comparison to all these Anglo children.
Yeah, the Anglo children really don't have the amount of melanin that we as black people have. Black people have the melanin of percentage of 12 is the rate. They're done in rates. So we have the highest rate, which is 12. Us and any indigenous people. Brown, Latino, Afro-Latinos, all of our brothers and sisters, Haitians and all, they are at 9. And then the Europeans, the Italians and the Germans, well, they're at a rate that is so low that they're the ones who are actually in need of melanin, because this is how they get, cancers and all this other stuff, because they don't have the melanin. And see, we talked about melanocytes last week when we talked about black hair turning gray.
Mm-hmm.
It is melanocytes, which is the cells that processes and contains melanin, that loses its vigor or just slows down, and it causes black hair to turn white. So again, your hair has melanin in it, everything in us. And there was something that I read that everything in us has melanin. It would be everything on the planet, actually. It is ubiquitous. And to me, it's the only thing that's similar to God, which is omnipresent. It's everywhere, always at the same time. And so melanin is in birds and fish and animals, in volcanoes, in oil. Anything that has a hue or a color has melanin. And so it's very valuable because you have a lot of people here. And I just found out today that actually suntan lotion is somewhat of a pseudo.
That's what gives the color?
Yeah, they're trying to, it's melanin. You guys got to understand.
See,
yes.
And that's nothing new because they've always had like the Jergens, the lotions, with the radiant glow that give you that light, tan.
I see. Yeah, melanin provides protection from ultraviolet rays and all this other stuff. So,
right.
But to find out that it's in suntan lotion, we don't know what they're using it for. I simply know that they don't always tell you what they're researching. Now, I'm going to tell you my friend's story. She's not here today, but I have another one that's coming that it almost happened to her. But one of my very close friends was walking from her apartment to Walgreens, which is all in the same parking lot.
Okay.
As she's walking, she has no purse. She's just walking, doing her exercise, going to get her medicine. Some guy comes up from behind, puts his hand over her mouth, and drags her a few feet.
Scary.
And so she bit him in his hand. I'm glad she had enough presence of mind to think about that.
Right.
She bit him in his hand. He let her go, and some white man that was leaving Walgreens heard her, and he went into the back of Walgreens where they had her, and the guy ran off. So this was broad daylight. I think it may have been 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And Walgreens, you can get a lot of traffic at Walgreens, and so luckily God had somebody there at the right time to hear her cry, because otherwise they would have pulled her off. And like I said, it couldn't have been about money because she didn't have a purse.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, hell, she's in her 50s. It could be about sex, but I'm not sure.
Not to make light of the
situation, but more importantly, it's more likely that it could have been for organ harvesting.
Right.
And so it's really serious, and we're just kind of telling you this because, again, the likelihood of my having two friends that this just happened to in the last 2 months speaks volumes that we are going into a period where people will sell parts of you. They have prices on organs and stuff like that. And so a lot of the black men that have been killed by police and all, a lot of them at the time they made it to the coroner's office and then made it to the mortuary, their organs were gone.
Right. And that's not anything new.
Trayvon Martin was one of them. His organs were gone.
Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that.
And some guy named Kendrick, somebody else I read.
That wasn't anything new, or it's not anything new. I recall there being, the black market or them even telling you, like we were in school, hey, be careful, don't
stranger danger.
Don't leave your drink, because the next thing you know is that you're going to wake up in a bathtub full of ice and your kidneys are gone, or this is missing or whatever. So those warnings, those threats, I don't feel it's anything new. I think the reason for them is something that's fairly new. Well, because before it was just people are being malicious. They just want organs, for their terminally ill loved ones. But now to see that it's a specific demographic that's being targeted, that's really scary.
That makes us hunted.
Right, absolutely.
That's kind of scary just there.
We'll go back. We'll come right back to this as soon as we get back from this short break.
You're listening to the Bridge of Light Radio.
So you never told me like what's the time increments you want on this video?
Oh no, nothing. Just for him. Just the first couple of minutes for him to talk about, and they can be referred to actually watch it.
All right, and then you're gonna bring it up during this segment or the next segment?
Well, we still talk. It's all about melanin, so it doesn't really matter. That's why I got a lot of my.
I need to know from you. Like,
okay.
You just gonna bring it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up and and have it on the screen so we can tell people they can actually get that and go to it because it's very educational.
Okay.
I'm talking about melanin. because I got a lot of my information from him along with some other things.
So do you want to go into that
First
early
2 minutes?
or
Let's
after
save
the
it a little
segment?
bit later. Let's wait a little bit later.
For after?
Yeah.
Okay.
'cause
Oh, I
Parker
do
coming.
have a live read
Okay,
for Sam
yes.
Houston Race Park when we come back.
All right. $30 seconds.
So she.
Yeah, wrong building or something. That sent you. Well, here's the address. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. 7666. I'm told to come in the front.
15 seconds.
This segment has been brought to you by Sam Houston Race Park. Live quarter horse racing is back at Sam Houston Race Park in 2019. Our 25th anniversary meet continues this weekend with 50-cent beer on Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. Corgi races are Saturday. Post time is 7 p.m. Get a luxury suite for 10 people starting at just $2.99. Have dinner at our Winter Circle restaurant for just $30 per person, which includes admission, buffet, tax, and gratuity. Live racing is back and better than ever at Sam Houston Race Park. Call 281-807-8700 or go online to shrp.com.
And thank you for listening. You are back with us at the All About You show with OMG and Friends. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
Daydream.
and we're talking about actually the blacks being the new commodity. I guess it'll be black and brown because, again, it's
Right.
about melanin. And from what I can gather, black Americans account for nearly 226,000 of all the missing persons that's been reported over the last 5 years. So that's a lot that nobody's been looking for. I'm not sure why they don't, they used to have the milk carton, but then, and then all of a sudden just dismissed that and decided that they would not do anything to actually rally around these people's families to try to find their loved ones. But basically what's probably happening is they have become a commodity because I'm going to give you a list. Small intestines, guys, go for $2,500. Price of eyeballs go for $15.25. And this is actually on the market here. Coronary arteries go for $15, gallbladder $12, skull with teeth $1,300, your scalp $607, spleen $507, and stomach $508. Now, when our other guest comes in, I guess she's still trying to get her Uber and stuff together, but hopefully she'll be here. But this is very serious. You need to watch your kids and watch yourself because it's no longer kidnapping. It's now adult napping. And so you need to be kind of focused on your surroundings. And I think all of us can pretty much be in a position to be abducted because we're on the dang phone.
Oh, always.
You can just, I will get off when I pull up into my garage, my driveway, I get off the phone. Because I don't want anyone to rush up on me, which can happen very quickly, because it's happened in my neighborhood before, and and be caught off guard. So we're prime candidates to be abducted, kidnapped, or whatever they want to call it, because we are so distracted.
Oh yeah, you see women all the time when they get done from the grocery store, they get back into their vehicles, they're messing with their purse, they're getting stuff situated, they're on the phone, they're fixing their makeup, they're doing, they're trying to get kids strapped in and get them settled in. So yeah, you're absolutely distracted.
Yeah, so we just leave ourselves wide open for that opportunity. But I'm going to tell you what it says about melanin. Melanin, as I mentioned earlier, is ubiquitous in every entity on planet Earth that has hue or color. Melanin is the root of what gives color to our skin, our hair, our eyes, plants, oil, animals, volcanoes, everything imaginable that is creative and colorful. Melanin is 100% activated through sun contact with black and indigenous people, and 50 to 100% with those Hispanic and all other people of color, including dark-skinned whites and Spaniards and Italians. So, again, that sounds like God to me. That's the only thing. And ubiquitous is existing or being everywhere, especially at the same time, or being omnipresent. So that's everything happening simultaneously.
Right. So I get the organ harvesting for those, on the black market for like organ transplants, terminally ill people, that type of thing. But specifically minority organs. So naturally our body our organs will contain the melanocytes, because
Absolutely.
that's just who we are. That's just part of our
That's
DNA.
how we got everything right.
So the reason they're targeting minority organs is because there's melanocytes in that particular, in those
And
tissues,
those
and their
cells
transfer.
that's right. And see, a lot of times, I think you can extrapolate. Because, your skin is an organ. So
Right.
again, the melanin is just below the epidermis, so they can get a needle and extract it that way. And that, as I mentioned, the most expensive way is to have it as a solid. So, I don't doubt that they're not, skinning people and scalps and all this other stuff. I mean, we don't have a clue what's going on, but I can tell you one thing from what I've read. It appears as though scientists, researchers, the government, the militaries, pharmaceutical companies, and hospitals are the ones in need of this, because they're busy doing research on melanin, but they won't tell you. They use some other, far land in cyberspace type title to call it pigmentation. They'll call it anything but melanin. And melanin is actually processed in the pineal gland. The pineal gland is what Prince used to call, well, he doesn't call it, that's what it's called, the third eye. So that pineal gland is the shape of a pine cone, and it sits in the middle of your very active and live brain. So as long as you don't have a calcified pineal gland, then you're going to be, that's what we have. We have a very active pineal gland.
Right.
Europeans and white have a calcified pineal gland, so it's not as active.
Right.
So with us, we have melanin in everything, in all parts of our bodies. And so again, I really knew it had some validity to it when I found a blog by some white people.
Oh, wow.
And it's called New Negro BS. Do you see this?
Wow.
New Negro BS. This is someone who says that they are just cannot believe how black people have now found themselves a more positive way to put a spin on who we are, and white people are trying to take our essence. Well, you are. I mean, you've been trying to take our essence for a long time.
We've the
Lip.
ant syndrome with the Kardashians.
Lips, butt.
All of it. Let's just say the ant syndrome. You thick lips, huge breasts,
Okay.
Yes.
a ginormous, ill-fitting butt.
Yes, way big.
The ant syndrome.
They want whatever we have, except you go to islands and
Right.
stuff like
And-
that. They
and
all want
even-
dreads.
Yeah, and they even want the color, because if that wasn't the case, why do we have so many spray tanning salons?
Because people want to be brown, but you don't want all of the plight of the brown and black people. But
Right.
you want all the glory that comes with them.
Right.
And also they said that melanin allows us to see better, hear better, taste differently, because the melanin does something that gives us a clearer vision.
You mean this is why we have taste buds?
This is why we have taste buds. Okay? It gives us a clearer vision. We hear music differently. I mean, we have a more keen.
Right. I just, I enjoy seasoning other than salt, pepper.
Okay.
I love some garlic, some cumin, some.
But guys, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the young black men that were killed when the police were all over the place with shooting brothers in the back and all this other stuff, and shooting them way too many times, or shooting them, period.
Right.
A lot of times, by the time they came from the coroner's office. So there's a hookup between the coroner and the mortuary guy.
Oh, yeah, everyone's got a price.
There was another young man who was, they exhumed his body. His name was Kendrick something. I can't think of his last name. Young guy, 17, 18. And the coroner had it. They did the autopsy, and then they sent it to the mortuary company. They said that they didn't do anything, but by the time they exhumed the body, the little boy was stuffed with newspapers. So imagine how his mom, it's bad enough having to exhume her son's body, but then to have it exhumed and looked at, and you've got dirty, trashy newspaper in his stuffed in his body. And Trayvon Martin, when they exhumed his body, he too had no organs. I don't know if you guys know that, and the big deal.
What was the reason for him being exhumed?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Because that...
If you guys remember, let us know. I can't remember for what reason he was exhumed.
Yes, please give us a call here at the studio, 713-789-0096. Thank you, everyone who's been tuning in on the live Facebook feed. Welcome, everyone, those of you who are watching. Let us know how you feel about it, or what it is that you might know. There's, always 6 degrees of separation. You might know someone or that something happened with them, or just something that was odd, and maybe with this bit of information it kind of makes some sense
now.
You know, I know when it came to like abortion clinics and things like that, I would always see where people were saying, you know, they're putting it in the minority communities and the black communities. They're trying, this is their way for us to do like self-extinction.
Yes.
You know, or I would hear about embryo and fetus harvesting from abortion clinics and what do they do.
Yes.
You know, so having that bit of information from way back when, and then hearing about this information, it makes sense.
As a piece of
it's
puzzle
all
that's
adding,
been gone.
you know, and
Yeah.
it just even more of a big you know, what's really going on and things like that. Because wasn't there recently an overturned tractor
18
trailer
wheeler that had 17,000
embryos that
See, this is your people.
were just
Y'all
spilled.
need to get this. Yes. I was going to say the exact same thing. I didn't know you knew about that. Absolutely. There was an overturned truck that had 17,000 unborn babies in there with all of the placenta, all of the melanin.
This is why it is so very important for us to read the fine print. You know, because I'm sure it's written somewhere. It could very well
it's
not
like
be
your DNA.
Okay?
It's written somewhere in small print.
You know,
we can do whatever we want to do.
Release, you know, liability
Yes.
with, you know, paperwork that has to be completed in medical procedures and abortion clinics, because that's a medical procedure, people. I'm sure there's something written there in the fine print, but you're not going to the abortion clinic because, oh, hey, it's just something I got to do today. You know, obviously you're in a crisis, you're distressed, so you're either not reading it and you're just trying to get through this, or, you know, you're just not, things are not registering properly for you because you are in distress. You are in crisis.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's kind of like with the privacy, the notice of privacy agreements that come in when we do updates that you found with Facebook. You
Absolutely.
actually went through and read it, and you were like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
this
what
is
is
what
it?
we're giving permission for?
Along with DNA. You know,
Right.
we're talking about this ancestor DNA. I tell you all the time, once you do that, you're giving them clear autonomy to do whatever the hell they want to do. They can
Whatever,
tell you,
whenever.
everybody is sub-Saharan. Everybody.
Right, and
Every
they're
time
allowed to sell it, and it no longer becomes your property.
It's not yours.
That guy who committed a crime 20 years ago, you know, he did some ancestry thing, and it was there in the paper that it then becomes their property, and they can do with whatever they want with it, sell it to whomever, and they actually sold it to I don't know if it was an actual law enforcement agency or some sort of agency, who then in turn the police were able to grab that DNA information and figured out that this was the guy they'd been looking for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
you know, your melanin is all in your DNA, and you know, again, we just think this is all a joke. You know, I talked to one of my friends back east today, and he's probably, I guess Robert's probably 75 maybe, and when I was telling him what the topic was going to be, he said, do you know, I remember when I was young, we were all told, do not go by Johns Hopkins Hospital because they will snatch you. So again, you have to understand that hospitals, as I mentioned earlier, hospitals,
and that's
government,
Johns Hopkins is known for research.
That's what all this is. I'm trying to tell you what this is. So he told me this, and this was 50 years ago. He was told, don't go by Johns Hopkins because they will snatch you. But bottom line is, now they're snatching our homeless people. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we don't have half the amount of homeless people that we had before Harvey. They're all gone. And I don't know if anybody pays attention. I look for things like that, you know.
See, and I figured, I just assumed that people, that they were moved, you know, these homeless camps were moved because a lot of that was flooded out, or quite honestly,
And what about those?
sadly, they got flooded out.
And what about those that they had in the FEMA barges that they put out to sea? Do you know about that? Remember they had these barges during the hurricane? Anyway, they had these barges, and homeless people who didn't have places to go, they put them on this barge and shipped them out to sea. Now, that's a clear indication that, first of all, you're homeless. No one is looking for you. There's no family. You go out to sea.
There's no record of you.
There's no record of you. You go out to sea. They take your organs and they throw you off the ship for damn shark bait.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a lot going on, and we're not paying attention. And so they don't want to wake you up, because this has been the process for years. And the medical community, they too. What do you think they get carcasses from? You know.
Well, I know people don't. I know people donate their bodies to science and things for that.
You do have some, but they're getting a lot of these cadavers from what they're doing.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt because I don't think that many people will donate their body to science.
No.
Or it could be unclaimed people, unclaimed bodies. I have a really good friend who she had always said, I want to donate my body to science and do this and do that. And so different stuff that we've seen, I provided her that information. She's like, well, maybe I need to think about it. I had always been one, okay, get buried, this and that. And the more and more that I know, and the underground news, things that you know from that, I really am looking more towards cremation. And I'm an organ donor, but I want to make sure. Yes, I am an organ donor. It's there on my license.
You may not have to have that. I mean, the way that I was just going to bring that up.
Well, my concern was, not everything will be able to be donated. I just want to make sure that
someone else
my organs are actually being donated.
How do you know?
I would hope that my family members would at least pay attention to that and say, hey, we need to make sure this goes and that.
Now, see, organ donors, that's different. That's on a hospital list when people are in need of a kidney or a liver or a heart transplant. That's a viable way of getting harvested organs.
Right.
But what they're doing now is killing people for this.
Right. Thank you, Renee, for tuning in. Our friend of the show, Renee.
Hey, Renee.
Renee says Planned Parenthood is the #1 killer of minority babies.
Thank you. He knows.
Yet the political leftists are supporting this monstrous organization and are pushing an agenda of allowing to kill babies just before or after birth, all in the name of quote-unquote women's rights. Yeah. He also says there are more than enough volunteers who donate their body to science, and no one is collecting homeless people to use for research at medical schools. Just FYI.
Okay.
How do you know that for a fact, Renee?
Okay. But that's what this is about. This is about rendering your opinion, of which we appreciate. But again, I think that the medical community, you have your government, you have your pharmaceutical companies. A lot of times they use, human organs to determine how a drug is going to work.
Watch the movie Us, people.
Okay, and then there's also a movie out now called Unplanned, and it's about a girl who worked at Planned Parenthood until she actually got to see, this is a true story,
I want to see that.
What they did. It is called Unplanned, and it came out, I think, the end of March, so it just came out. And basically, this lady who received all these awards, she was granted, her own abortion clinic to run. And it was her job to make sure that there were X amount of abortions done a day and per month. They had quotas like everything else. Bottom line is, she got a chance to see what actually happened. She stopped it. But if you know anything about Margaret Sanger, then you know how, and under the pretense of which Planned Parenthood was started. Because Margaret Sanger always felt that, and politicians are in support, Clintons and all this. She set up Planned Parenthood because she felt like black people did not deserve to procreate, that they needed to be stopped at junctures like this and not be able to bear children like any other family or race.
Right. I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
I do agree with women having the right to safe abortions because I cannot walk in somebody else's shoes and say, well, no, you can't do that. Or how can you? I only know my experience. I know what I've seen with, low-income families, those less fortunate, and the type of sacrifices that they're having to make. This is why I am all about being able to provide medical care for everyone. Because if that was the case, if everyone had the ability to have preventative care for those wellness exams and things like that, a lot of the need for abortions would be gone because we're taking better care of ourselves. We're more educated. Unfortunately, there's still that old mentality of, abstinence, and that's all there is to it. No.
In today's world, that's too difficult.
There's just no way, and unfortunately, you would think that we should be more educated because of social media, and now we're just more misinformed.
Well, I said, yeah. If you listen to the news, you're definitely misinformed.
Absolutely.
So that's where we are now.
I don't agree with getting rid of abortion clinics. I do know places like Planned Parenthood, they're not just performing abortions. They do wellness exams. They offer free birth control, and they're in other wellness services. So they've gotten the reputation for just that. but that's not the case. They do offer a lot more services.
Absolutely
They do
not.
provide. I mean, it's something as simple as just giving out free condoms.
Yeah.
So and those
That's
and
to
women.
cover up for all the dark stuff
Well,
that they do. There's a dark
yes,
medical side.
That's
out
with
there,
anything.
okay?
That's with anything, because also women who have abortions, they're not just okay there. That's it. They're offered counseling services, and they're also offered 2 years of free to reduced birth control.
Well, that's because again they don't want you to procreate, but that doesn't stop anything. You still have a high propensity for pregnancy because nobody's taking VC. Nobody's taking birth control.
No.
And and
And
again,
it's too difficult for a guy to say, "Hey, let me wait a second. Let me pull
I'll
out
be
right quick."
back. Whatever. Nobody's going to do that.
You know?
So here we are. And also I had done some research and it said, considering America's dark history of medical exploitation of blacks, this isn't far-fetched that the medical community does in fact use us. When they brought us over here from slavery, they used us for just about everything they thought they wanted to know. For research, guinea pigs, and the whole thing.
Smallpox, syphilis,
Everything.
chlamydia, gonorrhea. I mean, all of that.
Everything. Yeah.
Drugs, LSD, heroin, meth. I mean, that's
Agent
how they know.
Orange wasn't the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yes.
Everybody's given something. Y'all need to understand we're using us as guinea pigs. Now again, Renee, you're a good friend of the show and I appreciate your opinion, but I just respectfully beg to differ. I think every aspect, again, as I say, the government, the military, the pharmaceutical companies as well, because they have to, nobody tells you that they're studying and researching melanin.
Right.
That's what this is.
Right.
There is a there is a conference that is held every 3 years, and it's on melanin, but none of us are invited. When I say us, no black people are invited.
Minorities are not invited.
No, you're not even invited in a meeting.
What
that's
is this?
actually
Is it called the
about
Melanin
you.
Conference, or
It
what's
is
it called?
called the International Pigment Cell Conference. It was held in Singapore with experts from all over the world who studied diseases related to melanocytes, the pigment cells in the skin, discussed their research. That's what this is. Come on. Okay. Come on there. Anyway, so again, there is an organization out there that has conferences every 3 years of which you are not invited. You're not privy to the information. You're not privy to the research or anything that has been discovered there. And so, like I said, the last one was in Singapore. So melanocytes and all that we have that makes us brown, that is valuable, people.
Right.
It is more valuable than gold. And we all put a price on gold, but that's even worse. It's easy to just go and try to attack someone, obviously, if that's what they've done.
Right.
Because like I said, I've had in the last couple of months, 2 close friends of mine did get exposed to this.
Right.
And so, the likelihood of my having that in my close circle, that's hard to believe. So those of you with larger family members and girls and black women in your family, and I have a friend who's here, and she seems to think that there is a propensity to lean towards natural. Because again, if you have natural hair, I think it may be less chemical bound than hair that is perm.
I believe
Okay.
it. More natural.
More natural.
State. Now I know. What episode was it? It was an episode of botched plastic surgeries. Okay. And there was a couple on there. I want to say they were from Switzerland. They were a Swiss couple, and that they were a Swiss couple, and she was obviously not black. However, her skin was dark as yours. She went through an experimental procedure or some medication or whatever, her and her husband, because he had also gone through this, and I don't know what they called it, but she purposely made her skin darker because she felt that if she were black, she'd be more beautiful, that type of thing. So the doctor was talking with her, and he's like, well, you understand you don't look natural at all. Like,
They don't care about
basically
that.
you look like
You
a
look
freak,
like-
you look weird.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and it was a certain number of treatment or the amount of whatever they got.
And this is on a TV show that she's trying to get dark and.
Yes, it was on a surgery botch. I think she was there. She wanted to do something with her nose. And so that's, of course, he delved into everything else. I mean, it's obvious. How could you not speak to her about that?
Right.
But this was overseas. This was somewhere in Switzerland where she had this. And I thought, okay, well, that's crazy. But I do recall seeing information about research studies, saying weight loss, experimental for weight loss that'll also help you tan and this and that. So it's like, how can you tan from the inside out? Now I get it, but it was on an episode of Botch, this lady. And she said, oh, well, this was, in my country, I got a procedure, this and that. And he's like, a procedure to make you black?
Yeah, I guess she could very easily have been getting injections because they do have melanin.
I want to go back and try to find that episode, and if I find it, I will definitely make sure to post it on our Facebook page, so that way you could see what I'm talking about. But she made a mention of it, and honestly, at the time, I was just like, okay, whatever,
It's not until everything kind of fits,
right? But now, okay, yeah, how would they know that if you take something or you make something in injectable form or an oral form that it'll do that? Where
research, that's what I'm telling you. You have all these agencies that are doing this. They don't use the terminology melanin. So you just, again, melanin is used by drug companies, major health hospitals. They're trying to basically, when they need research and a guinea pig, we are the ones. You have Henrietta Lacks. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. Henrietta Lacks was a black woman, died in 1951. They took her cells, didn't tell her family. When there was a doctor, George Gay, this is all happening at Johns Hopkins Hospital. They were so busy when they would take cells from other people. They were so busy trying to keep these cells alive that they couldn't actually do the research. When this woman died, they took some of her tumor cells. The cells kept growing. They couldn't figure this out. What the hell is happening? It was the melanin. They have used her cells for research since 1951, and they're still using it.
Wasn't that part of the beginning for stem cell research?
It starts with a black woman again, and so there is a market for this, and the medical industry cannot advance without unwitting and unwilling black subjects. So cells secretly harvested and later cultivated from a black woman, as I just told you, Henrietta Lacks. All cells used for medical research, vaccines, cloning, testing, etc., has come from this black woman. Now, I've spoken my piece. Y'all need to really get in here and see where we are valuable. Everybody knows our value but us.
Right.
I have gone in mansions that white people have, and you know what? They have more of our artifacts than we do.
Right.
African artifacts, they know more about us than we know about us. And we just let it go on because we're being dumbed down. And you're allowing it to happen. And unless and until you wake up and see and smell the coffee and see what they're doing.
Not just so much dumbed down, we're made to feel inferior, that we need to get rid of our culture and our heritage. Not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, when you go to these different markets, these different vendor markets, like the Nutcracker or some other boutique thing or whatever that's going on, you see the plethora of people who've taken pieces of the Latin culture and made it kitsch,
theirs.
Very, very chic and very this and very that. And I heard her say, quote, I was walking behind this white woman and I was just passing through and I heard her say, gosh, I don't know what it is. It's just lately I've just been so into like the Mexican thing,
With the Valley Girl voice. Well, that's
exactly how she spoke.
That's how they do it. Because
but the vanilla that my grandparents have growing on their property, or the avocados, it was guacamole. Now it's avocado dip. Now it's avocado toast. No, it's just a taco de aguacate. You slice it. This is how we eat it. You make us feel ashamed for how we're eating, but you put your little twist on it, and so now it's a cool, trendy thing.
I think I responded on something you had written on our page, and it's basically, I think you mentioned something about, it was on yours. It had something to do with grits. How grits has come from being a poor dish to now it's in all your high-end restaurants. And I remember
shrimp and grits, $25 a plate.
Okay, I remember commenting that same thing about water. I'm in real estate. There was a time when only black people lived near the water. Black people ate fish, crab, lobster. That was their diet.
Right, and they got their water from the river.
That's right.
For washing,
and so
everything.
The white people started eating all this meat and getting gout and all the things that comes from having all these overly rich foods. And so then they go in and start removing Negroes from the water. And now waterfront property is the most expensive property you can buy. Right. I will sell a lot that's waterfront, $450,000. That's not even a house. That's just a lot.
Right.
So I think at this point in time, guys, we have to go take a break because I'm talking fast and I'm trying to get this information to you. We'll be right back.
finally named
I
it.
know.
I told your producer that I would wait till I get sit down
And calm
instead
down.
of- and walk in looking like an
Come on.
egg. And when I walked in, you like, come on. I said, girl, do your job. Tell her.
Yeah.
Get it.
Okay, so we got
But we
about
got you.
five minutes.
We got you ready.
Because I'm gonna
Set up.
Yeah,
How are you?
Thanks.
How are you? Good
your
to
face
see
is
you
too
too.
cute with lashes to not be on it.
I do have.
I know.
They just think
That's
Diana
okay,
Ross.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's okay. So
Yeah, but people want to take our culture.
there's a new film. Take that off. But like the serape, the Mexican blankets and stuff like that.
They claim
It was patched onto denim jackets that they were selling for $235.
I remember that.
I was
I
just
remember
like,
that.
oh my god.
What do they call it? That's the ethnic look. Is that what it is? The ethnicity? Isn't that what the producers
I
that?
guess.
Yeah, because when they started doing the black thing, the African thing, the Mexican thing, the
30 seconds.
the Haitian thing, the Dominican, it's all of that.
$15 seconds.
You know. Do host again. So
Our special guest.
yeah, special.
It's a wide shortage. It's a wide shortage this week.
And we are back. You're listening to the All About You show with OMG and Friends, where I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host
Daydream.
and a special studio guest.
Clark.
Oh, Lord, Clark. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about Clark. She's actually been on our show before. Her name is Clark E. Clark. At any rate, she's a fly-ass vegan. She's a certified vegan chef. She's also an authoress, and she's also a weight loss guru. So this is the guest that we've been waiting on that I told you would give us a brief overview of the life-threatening situation that she was exposed to. Can you tell us a little bit, Clark, about what happened?
Yeah, not too long ago, about maybe 2 weeks ago, I went to the movies by myself, like right next door to where I live, not even far, could have walked home. And I had actually had an experience like this maybe 20 years ago. But I was able to recognize that the gentleman that had presented himself to me, he didn't present himself, he was about to attack me. But he was about maybe 20 feet away from where I was, and I was coming from the last show, so there's no reason to come this way into the film because everything's being locked up. I was waiting for my driver, who already signaled me that I will be there in 2 minutes. 2 minutes turned to 10, 10 turned to 15. I'm calling him, I'm walking back and forth. Where are you? He's not answering the phone. This man comes out of nowhere and he's fixed on me. So 12 o'clock, he's walking straight to me, looking at my hands. What do I have in my hands? So I'm like, okay, he's very intense. He's giving me intense energy. Your gut feeling is going to tell you either fight or flight.
That's right.
So I see about 3 people at another party that is waiting to be picked up, but there's also 2 cars adjacent to them, a Hyundai and like a truck. And he's walking this way 12 o'clock. So I said, okay, you know what? We're not going to play this game. I'm going to walk over towards the other party. As soon as I walk, he's like, okay, I'm going to walk that way too. And the moment I took maybe 2 steps, my Uber driver appeared. He did a 360 instantaneously on a dime and just turned and walked back where he came from. As soon as I touched the door, he wasn't even sure the car was for me. He just knew I was walking in direction. But when I opened up the door, he just turned around. So I instructed the driver to just sit there and watch, because the way people come up to pick up people, it'll take you out of the theater. But if you're still in the parking lot, you can turn around and be in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't just making, like he could have dropped his keys. He could have, turned around.
Right.
He not only walked past the parking lot, he just kept walking to the main street. So I was very clear he was coming specifically for me. He was not looking like a drug derelict. He was not looking like disheveled in any way. He was about in his late 30s, mid 30s to late 30s. Well, not well dressed because he didn't have on shoes. If you're going to scrap, you ain't going to have on, you're not going to have on dress shoes. Right. Okay. He had on sneakers. He did not look like someone that was trying to rob me. Now, I know coming from, East Coast, if someone is approaching you and they're trying to rob you, they're not going to come near you if you're going towards people. So I thought about it, and I talked with a friend who lives here who, know of some situations that had happened here in Texas around abduction. And I was sharing with this person that this gentleman was Middle Eastern, and he said that's who's running the sex trafficking here
about Arabs and Muslims, right?
in Houston, big time. Now, I'm way past the age of 29, 39, okay? I'm past 40.
You can cut it off.
Just saying, to even be presented or looked upon as like to put me into some brothel or something crazy. But what made me understand it is that I just, thinking of my background and just thinking of the teachings that I was taught as a young person, melanin will soon be a commodity. Like, it will soon be like the main thing. It will be more than gold. And I looked online, and it's going on the black market for $419 a gram. And this man looked at me like, I don't care what you do. If you get in between people, I'm going to act like you're my woman. He could stun me. He could, do anything. All people are going to do, because we're starting to become a very narcissistic society.
Nobody pays
where
attention.
people will just take a picture of it as opposed to interrupting, say, hey, wait a minute, don't take. I could say help all you want. I could have been his.
Right. Everyone's hands off. It's not my business. Let's stay out of it. But I'm gonna put this all over Snapchat and go viral.
That.
Right. And that's one instance. And then I spoke with my neighbor, and I was telling her, like, we were on the treadmill, and I was like, it's crazy. I said, I had this experience last week. I feel like I got PTSD. I can't even get on the elevator. I'm, a few feet back because I just have flashes of somebody coming out. I have to, and she says, well, not more than me. I said, what happened to you? She's like, I was, coming from work, sitting down, had 2 cocktails, just me, out off of work, is still in my uniform, no big deal. She goes, and I can drink. Most of you Texan girls. So she's like, hey, I can drink. And for me to have 2 cocktails, Jack Daniels, would not make sense for me to leave for a little nightcap at the bar that I frequent. But there was a new bartender. I fell flat on my face before I walked out the door, passed out. When I woke up, I was at a hospital.
They roofied her. We did a show on roofing.
Now, roofied, yes, I understand in a party atmosphere when someone's trying to talk to you. But I'm talking about someone in their late 30s, early 40s, sitting at the bar by themselves after work. They're not grouping anything. They're just by themselves. And
because they're easy to have just to kind of wash into the background. Well, they're obviously not here to meet anyone. They're here just by themselves. No one's messing with them. I'm one of those people. I'll go somewhere by myself, but I'm more street knowledgeable, so I know to watch, pay attention to this, don't do that, and to just, I'm a people watcher. So the same. When something doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right. It's like, wait a minute, your spidey senses will go up, but I'm there and then I'm gone. If you're a regular, okay, I'm a new bartender, you're an easy mark.
Right.
Because I'm in a new spot. Nobody really knows anything about me, so I can have whatever story I want and be setting up marks. Hey, this person, they're always in here by themselves, or this or that.
And you have women help set you.
So that's one
Absolutely.
case. Then there was another one. A sorority sister of ours was jogging 5 o'clock in the morning. 3 Middle Eastern men jump out of a Jeep to attack her and to put her into a van. And, dreadlocks, natural hair. The other sister that I'm talking about, natural hair. Not that means anything, but one of the things that is
my
valuable.
My friend had natural hair as well. The one that was approached after behind Walgreens.
Right.
She had natural hair.
So there's something about the hair and there's something about melanin. And, you know, I had just read, and this is very real about melanin. Like, you know, you listen to people such as, I want to make sure I say his name right, Lalila Africa, Dr. Lalila Africa.
I'm going to have his video up in a second just to show them.
Is phenomenal. His information is phenomenal. He's a wonderful teacher, but he speaks, you know, about melanin, and he just doesn't speak in theory. He talks about scientific, how we are biochemically different, and it is the polymers or the polymers. He speaks about how we are our melanin has the ability to address multiple areas in life, even taking us into the next dimension. It is the missing God particle, and he talks about that. So, you know, and he says the hair is not only on the outside, it goes in the inside. The hair is attached to the sperm. That's the thing that wiggles it to the egg. It's hair.
Oh,
so
wow.
hair is very important.
Wait, I've heard people say that if you cut your hair, you're cutting off some of your energy. I've heard that before too.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the video that you were talking about, and we recommend we have it on the screen now for you to look at, because if you want to know more about melanin, this guy is the go-to guy. I think he has 2 or 3 PhDs or something.
He is. I mean, the list about who he is. This is 40 years of his teachings. This man is amazing. He speaks about what deactivates melanin. And since watching that video, I had, because I'm all about wellness, of course, I coach people, but, you know, I look at ingredients and how it interacts with your melanin.
And that's how the pharmaceutical companies and hospitals do research to see how it interacts. So right.
So, you know, there's something to what he's talking about. There is a lot, something to it. And they're doing the slavery in Libya. You see these men they're not enslaved. You think to your mind, oh, they're enslaved to do labor and clean the house and pick the yard. No, they're slave, and they're getting their organs taken from them to be dead. Those guys are being farmed. They're not just they're not a slave. You hear enslavement, and you see guys with guns, and to a guy's head, not a guy's head, a Libyan, in Libya, these young boys, they're harvesting their organs. They're taking their melanin. The melanin is just not on the outside of your skin. It's coated in your DNA. It's coated on your organs.
Right.
So that's
and we've actually posted video about the Libya
travesty.
Trafficking. I mean, because that's what it is. It's trafficking. But we posted that on our Facebook page before, and actually this video that we have on the screen, we also have that posted. Matter of fact, we just posted it before we went on air, so you'll be able to find it fairly quickly.
But listen to that. He not only talks to us about melanin, he also explains to us about the white people, why they're different than we are, and how they have more sulfur and more ammonia and stuff in their skin.
He speaks about how you walk into an air conditioned building and you're cold, and they can feel quite comfortable because their body produces more ammonia, and how when their body also produces biochemically more sulfur, so you smell that when their hair is wet. He speaks about that. Melanin has a sweet odor, so you're not necessarily smelling that amongst us. It's basically, when you do smell us, meaning melanated people, it's the food that we've consumed that deactivates.
Has to come out. Yeah. Wow, guys, we're dead serious about this, and we're trying to alert you.
Truly life or death situations here.
Absolutely, and you need to pay attention. But I think one of the main factors that we need to do is tell somebody where you're going. I've always been one of those people. If I go somewhere, I'm going to call and let somebody know I'm going to be here. I should be home by this time. And I remember when I first moved to Houston, I would give out license numbers. If I went out with a guy, you had to give me a license, because
my mom's still one of those people.
Girl,
the guys thought it was a joke. Oh, what's she doing? Write down my license plate. That's exactly what she's doing, and everything that you're wearing, and where we're supposedly going, and all that. I mean, even to this day, if I have somebody come pick me up at my parents' house,
she wants to know.
That's what's going on, people. My mom is zooming in on the camera
so you really
for all of that. I mean, it is very serious, and get your face out of the phone.
That's
get your get your head out of your own butt.
Because
Okay,
it
pay
costs you.
attention, look at everything that's going on, and stop. Well, that's not my business. I don't have anything to do with that. Yes, you do.
And get yourself. I have a 6 million watt taser. That's a flashlight. You need to get, what is that? The stuff they spray.
Mace.
Pepper spray, mace. You need to have something to at least back somebody up off you. But again, this is to save your life. And thank you guys for listening. And thank you, Clark E. Clark, for talking to us about her experience. But we don't want to have any other experiences told to us, because you need to watch your back.
Thank you, everyone who followed along on our Facebook page, and we will see you next week on the radio.
I was like,
I was so damn tight. I can't even tell you how tight I was.